Hello guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be taking you through my non-negotiable glute days. I was actually going to title this 2026 non-negotiable glute, did I say days? Glute exercises, but that's a little bit misleading because it's my everyday non-negotiables. No matter what year it is, it's going to be my non-negotiables because this is what you should be doing if you want to grow your glutes. I feel like a lot of people overcomplicate it. They change their workouts every single time they get to the gym. Doesn't need to be that complicated. You can just have like 5 or 6 key exercises and just stick to them every single week. And that is the best way to progressive overload. That's the best way to improve on the form, improve on the weight that you're using, and to grow your glutes. So that's what I'm going to take you through today. Welcome. Hello guys, it is Mini Diana. I'm probably showing up as a little tiny box in the top of your screen right now, but I'm going to be here to explain every single form tip that I think would really help you target the area of the glute that is the focus for every single one of these exercises and just get the most out of every single one. So to start off, I have my absolute favorite superset. If you are a common member of this YouTube family, so you know that I implement this superset quite a bit. With this superset, we're going to start off with cast glute bridges and then get right into hip thrusts. With both of these exercises, we are going to be targeting the glute max, which is the biggest portion of the glutes. I specifically like using the Smith machine for my hip thrust supersets because they help stabilize my body in such a great way where I can just solely focus on engaging my glutes the entire time instead of just trying to focus on balancing myself, keeping myself stable. I can just focus on mind-muscle connection the entire way through the exercise. So this, I feel the exercise the most when I use the Smith machine, but of course you can use the barbell if you prefer that as well. You can do either or. So now a superset is 2 exercises done back to back without any rest in between. I love doing the superset. It targets the glutes so well and the pump afterwards is phenomenal. 10 out of 10. If you haven't tried it yet, definitely put this on the list. Now to get into a basic glute bridge position, because we're not changing any sort of situation or position for these 2 exercises, they are the same. We want to make sure that the box that we're using to rest our back on is at the proper height. For me, my perfect box height is 14 inches, but of course it's going to depend on your height, the length of your legs, and just your body overall. When choosing the box that you're going to rest your back on, you want to make sure that it is at the perfect height. Now, how you go about doing that is when your hips are fully extended in full glute bridge position, you want to make sure that your knees are aligned with your shoulders. If they are a little bit lower, that box is way too high. If your knees are higher than your shoulders, it's too low. Once you've found that perfect box height, you're going to situate yourself into regular glute bridge position. Here, you want to make sure that your scapulae, the bottom of your shoulder blades, are resting right on the box, and you want to make sure that your knees are perpendicular, a 90-degree angle to the floor, if that makes sense. With our first exercise being a cast glute bridge, I know a lot of people get confused of the difference between that and a regular hip thrust. The only difference is the range of motion. A cast glute bridge is just half the distance down as a regular hip thrust. So you want to start by getting up into full hip extension, full glute bridge. You're going to lower about halfway the distance of a regular hip thrust before pausing and lifting back up, squeezing at the top. Now the key is slowing down this movement. You don't want to rush through it or else you're just not going to feel your glutes working at all. We want to increase the amount of time that our glutes are under tension. So slow down the movement, make sure that it's very controlled and that you're squeezing at the top and gradually and slowly bringing it back down. Now with a regular hip thrust, which is the next part of this superset, we're not going to have any rest in between. We're going to do around 8 to 10 reps of a cast glute bridge, and then we're going to get into 8 to 10 reps of a regular hip thrust. Now with this hip thrust, the same thing. We're going to extend up at the top into full hip extension. You're going to lower all the way down, as far down as you can without arching your back, and then you're going to lift back up, squeezing at the top. Now this is going to get very, very difficult, but remember the key is to keep it controlled, keep it slow, and really focus on that mind-muscle connection. I promise this is going to tear your glutes apart. I don't know if that's like a good thing. I don't know if you want that, but it's good. It's good, I promise. Next up, we got low platform split squats, and specifically I am using a lower platform about 4 or 6 inches tall. And the reason why I prefer a lower platform versus the bench platform, which you will often see, is because a low platform allows you to extend farther down, reach a deeper range of motion, and this allows for more of a stretch on the glutes and hamstrings, which is what we are trying to target on glute and hammy day, versus a bench platform doesn't offer as deep a range of motion, which then has you targeting more of the quads. Now there's a couple things that I like to focus with getting into position for split squats. Number one is the distance away from the platform. I usually go about 2 or 3 steps away, and that works perfectly. I definitely suggest trying it out with your body weight first. Get rid of the dumbbells, situate yourself, see what feels comfortable. But for the most part, 2 or 3 steps away for me has always worked. When you finally found that sweet spot where your feet are going to be situated, to get into position, before you even begin the movement, you want to lean your torso slightly forward. And the reason why is because with this movement, we're going to pretend that we're moving along a diagonal line. This diagonal line is the key to helping to make sure that your glutes are initiated during this exercise. Is initiated the right word? I don't know, but we're gonna go with it. So lean your torso forward slightly, bend that front leg to initiate the movement, and as you go down, pretend that you're moving along that diagonal line. And the key with this, as with all the other exercises, is control, slow movement, and mind-muscle connection. You want to focus on that working glute, because I promise mind-muscle connection is so underrated and will help you feel that pump, feel that burn, feel that tension on that working glute. Now, when you reach the bottom of the movement, I love to just pause at the bottom, because this really helps to feel the stretch the most when I'm right at the bottom of the movement, kind of just working against gravity, working against the weights. And then after that brief pause, I extend back up, focusing on that working glute all the way back up to the top of the movement. For our third exercise, we got Romanian deadlifts, specifically with dumbbells, but you can also use barbells or other types of variations. I just prefer dumbbells because they help me most with my mind-muscle connection. RDLs are another one of those exercises where I find a lot of people have trouble getting into position and just feeling your glutes overall. Before even beginning the exercise, I want to put you kind of into a simulation. I don't know, I'll give you a metaphor. I don't know what I'm going to be giving you, to be honest, but it's something visual. So you're going to have your feet shoulder width apart, and how I like to imagine it, that's a great way to put it. I'm going to give you an imagination, okay? Your feet are shoulder width apart. You're going to pretend that someone has a rope wrapped around the front part of your hips and is holding both ends of that rope from behind you. Now, to master the RDL, the thing you really need to get is the hip hinge. The hip hinge is what happens when that person pulls both ends of that rope and your hips send backwards. That is a hip hinge. Naturally, when you send your hips backwards, your knees give a little bit of a bend. Now, with an RDL, you're just going to give your knees a little bit more of a bend than naturally would occur when you do that hip hinge. So now with an RDL, you're gonna start with both dumbbells in front of your hips, probably resting on your quads. As you lower the dumbbells back, first of all, we're not lowering the dumbbells back. We're sending our hips back first. That's actually the first part. This movement starts with the hip hinge. That's why you gotta master it. Send those hips back. You see that little bend in your knees? You're gonna lower the dumbbells, kind of glide them across the front parts of your legs. And as you lower, you're gonna give a little bit more of a bend to your knees. This is what's going to help target your glutes. Now, once your dumbbells reach about mid-shin height, this will vary depending on your flexibility, but once they reach about knee level or shin height, or whenever you feel that stretch in your hamstring, you've reached far enough and you can start bringing it back up. Now, in order to feel your glutes with this exercise, it takes practice, but also you need to put all your weight on the heels of your feet. This is going to be a little bit of a learning curve for a lot of people, because naturally our feet, the weight on our feet is evenly distributed. Who am I right now? I don't know who I'm talking, how am I talking with these words right now? But you're going to focus all your weight on the heels of your feet, because that is what's going to connect the posterior chain, which is basically the back part of your body, including your calves, your hamstrings, and your glutes. Am I getting too technical now? I feel like it's needed. So once you reach the bottom of the movement, about knee or shin height, pretend that you're pushing on the heels of your feet to bring your dumbbells back up to starting position. I definitely recommend starting this exercise with maybe even just bands, put them around your feet. and hold both ends of the bands with both your hands. Wait, what? I definitely recommend starting out this exercise light, either using resistant bands where you put it around the bottoms of your feet and then you hold both ends with your hands and kind of just pretend that those are your dumbbells, or just really, really light weights. You really want to master form before increasing any sort of weight, as with any exercise, but specifically the more challenging ones like RDLs. As with the other exercises that we just talked about, RDLs focus on primarily the glute maximus, but also the hamstrings, which naturally you know because you feel that stretch as you lower down into the movement. Second last exercise, we got cable glute kickbacks. These are another ultimate favorite of mine. This exercise, surprise, surprise, also focuses on the glute maximus, as naturally the glute max is the biggest portion of your glutes, but it also targets the glute medius because you need to stabilize yourself, especially with these unilateral movements like a low platform split squat where you're only doing one leg at a time. You need your glute medius to take over and help to stabilize you and keep you balanced. Now, this is another tricky exercise that a lot of people struggle with form, but I promise with this, there's a couple tips that I can give you that will really help you go a long way, you know? Before we even begin the exercise, we need to go through feet positioning. I like to take about 1 or 2 steps away from the machine. Your planted foot, this is kind of a free-for-all. I feel it most comfortable if my planted foot is slightly turned outwards. I just feel like it's more comfortable for my hips, but this is totally up to you. So I would either keep them straight or a little bit turned out. It's up to you. And then with your back leg, the one that's strapped to the cable, you want to keep it relatively straight or a little bit turned out, but you don't want to overdo it or else we're getting into fully glute medius territory. So let's keep it either slightly turned out or straight. Now that planted foot is staying still, which means that whole side of your body should not be moving. You should not be swaying your body at any point. The sole focus is that working leg. So when you extend that leg backwards, your entire body is staying stabilized. You're using that glute medius to keep you still. You can hold on to the cable machine to keep you kind of steady and help you out a little bit, especially as you move up in weight. You're naturally going to need a little bit of leverage there. I like to lean my torso slightly forward. I just find that it's the most comfortable instead of keeping upright. I find that I arch way too much in my lower back when I keep upright. So a slightly leaned over torso, chest, is totally fine. Now your working leg is going to extend backwards. When you kick it back, you really want to control this movement. You don't just want to flail your leg backwards. You want to extend it back as far as you can without arching your lower back excessively. You don't want to get your back injured. Extend it back. Now briefly hold it at the top of the movement. Feel that glute squeeze. And this is the best part. Once you're done holding it for about a second or two, you're going to slowly and gradually in a controlled manner bring it back to the bar. You're really going to fight the weight and the resistance, bringing it back to the bar. And that is the key to cable glute kickbacks. Control. Now, a lot of people start with too heavy of a weight. I definitely recommend keeping it as light as possible before you move on. You want to master your form. As I said before, master your form before increasing the weights. Now, as my bonus exercise, we got glute focused hyperextensions. With this exercise, we are targeting, for the most part, the glute maximus, but we also get a good portion of the hamstrings as well. To help make this a little bit more glute focused, we're going to do a couple of things. First and foremost, you want to get onto the hyperextension machine and you want to make sure that the pads are resting just under your hips. You want to make sure that they're not too high, or else you're not going to be able to reach the range of motion that we need to in order to target our glutes and hamstrings. Your feet should be resting on the platform, either straight ahead or slightly turned outwards. I always prefer a slightly turned outward stance just for comfortability. Comfortability. Add that to the vocabulary. I don't know if that's a word. Comfortability. Comfortableness. Comfortability of my hips. To begin, you're going to have your hips resting onto the pads and you're going to lower down as far as you can without arching your back. Once you reach the deepest point, you're going to extend up. Now at this point, it's totally up to you whether or not you want to keep your back straight or slightly curved. I say take this with some caution because some of you might have, back issues and not be able to perform this
in the way that I'm explaining it. So do take some caution with my explanation here and do whatever suits you and what feels most comfortable. I prefer to do more of a curve, and I'm not curving it in such a way where I'm putting all the weight on that curve. I actually put all the weight on my glutes. And the way that I do that is once I extend down to the deepest part, I bring it up, but what's initiating the movement is the squeeze of my glutes. So I'll give myself a little bit of a push up to get to the top, but for the most part, my glutes are kind of doing like a reversed hip thrust situation to bring me all the way back up. And that's why I feel my glutes so much in this movement, because really what I'm doing is I'm squeezing up to the top, and then gradually and slowly, as with all the other exercises, bring myself down, slowly kind of releasing my glutes there. That sounds crazy, but it was useful. I needed to explain it in that way. You can definitely do this with your back straight if you're a little bit more concerned about adding weight to a curved back position. You can definitely do that. Just make sure that your mind muscle connection is on those glutes and that you are really squeezing them and contracting them at the top of the movement and even to initiate the movement, and you're holding back and squeezing them as much as you can before dropping at the bottom. You know what I mean? You want to master the form before introducing weight or even increasing weight. You can incorporate weight into this exercise in a number of ways. You can either hold one dumbbell with both your hands, or you can wrap your arms around a plate and hold it close to your chest like I have in this video. I've even seen people hold barbells, whatever is most comfortable for you. But the most important thing is start with body weight, which I actually always use body weight as my warm-up set, and then slowly introduce weights from there. And those are all of my glute non-negotiables. Again, I don't change much around with my glute workouts. I may swap out one or two things for a very close and similar alternative, but for the most part, I keep it relatively the same. And that is the only way that you're going to progress, is by keeping things the same, focusing on improving form, increasing weight, and trying to make things more challenging with that exercise each time you do it. With that, I'm going to end the video here.